figured I better turn off that music. It was getting a little steamy over here.
Robin, did this like help with the behind, yeah, it was. I was enjoying the smooth jazz to get you going for the evening.
Hey, Janet.
We got lots of people hanging out. I'm so glad. It's been so crazy. I sometimes I don't realize how much I miss you and our friends, like until it's time to be here and see them, and then I'm all like, "Oh my God, I miss my friends."
I know, and because of the different days that we stream, weekends and Tuesdays, and then I stream, we kind of see different groups of our friends, and it's always so fun. Like we have these opportunities. So I didn't say hi to Robin and Marianne. It's good to see you guys. Marianne has done her reading.
I almost didn't. I had started some of my reading yesterday in anticipation for an eye exam that I had at the butt crack of dawn this morning. And I was like, I'll be fine. And they numbed me because something touched my eye. And they dilated me the most dilation I've ever been in my entire life. And yeah, it took it's probably still there. And I had it done at like 8:30 this morning.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I was having a time. I was having a time. Hi, Jan.
Hey, Jan. All the gang's here. Our friends are here. Love it.
Janet, it's okay that you're playing catch up. I feel like my whole life is that. I was just saying to Stephanie before we started that it has felt very busy to me because I've had something on the calendar every day this week. And it's not even that it's taxing. It's just that it's something on the calendar.
I know. Isn't that awful? I feel the same way.
My days are not my own.
But the thing is, when your days are your own, like in my case, I have had a few days of my own. It's like, did I do anything, really productive? I guess this weekend I did. But
well, speaking of, so let's get right into some announcements here because okay. So this Saturday, right? We've got a Stitch and Glitch going on. And I will have treats. Tomorrow, I am picking up, this was not planned, but I am picking up a hoard of quilts. And by hoard, I mean like more than 20.
And you had some that have come to you a little bit early, right?
Yeah, I had a few. I had a handful come to me a little earlier. So yes, I am picking up a hoard of quilts. I'm sorry that I can't be more specific about where they're from, but I had not planned on that. I was pretty sure I wasn't buying any more quilts because it's funny when we got on here, Stephanie's like, "You have a lot of quilts behind you," and I was like, "You know what's funny? This isn't even the most of them."
It's funny. I just hearing you talk about, having to like these quilts, and I mean, I know the story because I've been talking to you this week, but it reminds me of, it's actually my mom's hairdresser, but she's a good family friend, and she and her husband had trouble conceiving, so they decided to go the route of adoption, and where they live, it was kind of easier to get like into the adoption, however all that works, by being foster parents. So they knew that their baby was going to come suddenly, right? Because they were going to do like a foster to adoption kind of situation. So they get the call, "You have a baby. She's like 2 days old." And they're like, "Oh my gosh." So they're like scurrying to get things ready for this baby because they have to go pick her up. And I mean, infant, newborn. And like a month into them having this child, they find out she's pregnant. And she's like, "Well, this wasn't planned, but we're very happy to suddenly have these two children that are like the exact same age, pretty much."
That is often how it happens.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny, but I just think about like, obviously quilts and children, two different things, but it's still sort of like it's a wonderful thing. It's a bonus, but you're like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?"
And you're also like, I wasn't planning on spending all this money. in either scenario. So yes, no,
Exactly.
I'd resigned myself to, it's the end of the year. Things are going well in my antique booth. I'm like, I'll just let that keep going, and I'll do some stuff for online, and not necessarily do a lot of buying for the rest of the year. And the powers that be in the universe were like, hold my beer.
It's like the cat distribution system. In this case, it's the quilt distribution system. It knows where to find you.
Yeah, well, it's when I was talking with another one of our dealer friends the other day, and it was one of those things where it's like you can't turn them down
No.
when they come around, because
Mm-hmm.
this isn't Kohl's where you're like, I'll think about it, I'll come back in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a thing.
Yep.
So when you find them and they're good, interesting, this is how you end up like this. I do. Oh, I don't know if I ever showed you guys though. I do have to just show you real quick that, like, look, there's like it's like organized,
Oh yes,
and
yes, yes, yes.
and
Because you
like
had guests.
yes,
you had
and
to.
like
You had to like archaeology out the bed.
I did. There's a bed. There is a bed here that's bed shaped and not covered. It's amazing. I haven't covered it yet. It's been cold up here, so I haven't been up here much. But yes, it's still there. Now, is this all of it? No. There's a closet here. There's a room downstairs that has become like the resting area. I need them to rest in the house
Mhm.
before they can go anywhere else. So
Sure, sure.
yeah, just saying, just saying. And yes, Marianne, that's the way that it goes. So okay, so hopefully that's going to be the plan on Saturday, aside from whatever else ends up happening, is maybe I will show some of what I got. And I mean, like, literally, like, hold up and look at this. Like, I won't have time to get like photos and make it pretty or anything, but we'll have things to talk about. And then a reminder that next Tuesday Stephanie is out of town, so we'll have a recorded video available at 2 p.m. under the videos tab, not the live tab, if you have trouble finding it. And that will be lovely because we always want to be around, we like to be around. So that means
You
that tonight,
forget about us if we aren't like on your radar, like poking you and bugging you.
that's true. And then that also means that tonight's assignment, so anyone, Jan, that is behind, you've got time now to catch up if you want to catch up. And this is pretty easy reading if you haven't dived into this yet. It's not overly difficult, and it's interesting. There's not much yet that I've seen so far that I've kind of snoozed through. So for December 2nd, oh my God, December, that's going to be our next discussion, and we'll discuss chapters 4 and 5, which are pages 85 to 137. Don't be scared. It's a lot of pictures.
Yeah, there are a lot. I think that's the one thing that's been saving me when I open the book and I'm like, oh gosh, like 4 pages of text. Ugh. But then there's a big giant picture. So
Yes, just remember, as a rule of thumb, I try very, very hard not to assign more than 30 pages of actual texts.
you are such a nice professor.
You know what? It makes for more robust discussion, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think about some of my college classes, and it was like, yeah, read Pride and Prejudice this weekend. Have War and Peace done by next week.
yeah, well, grad school, they'd be like, you see this textbook on like the driest possible topic, church history. Okay, read this by the morning, and write a 10-page paper about it.
Yeah.
I don't miss that stuff, that's for sure. But I have very good news, and that is that I was able to actually find a lot of the images from these 2 chapters out in the world. Museums that put their collections online, at least a large majority of them, like, love you very much.
Agreed.
So yes, we have stuff to look at. Let me just pull up my notes here. And my dear, you can take it away if you have burning things to say.
Okay, I'm moving some stuff off my desk that is annoying me. Okay. Well, I have to say, these chapters spoke to me this week. The very first thing, like the poor Deborah Norris Logan and her hatred of her portrait. I get it. I've kind of always had an issue with my own photograph, so I understand how she's feeling. Like, she's like, I look like, I look like this disagreeable old lady, basically.
I also feel like that the whole part of the story here is that one of her descendants destroyed the original copy in 1934. I find that a lot of things that I read about people in portraits, there's a lot of destroying of them when people don't like them. Churchill had one of his most
that's the very first thing I thought of, was Churchill didn't like his and it he had, what is this, did his wife burn it, or he burn? I can't remember the details.
It was, and what's funny is it was the portrait that was most lifelike. Yeah, that he didn't.
Well, he's like, I don't like the way I look. I wanted you to paint me better looking than I am.
Well, they were like, yeah, whatever happened to my 1800s Photoshop here? Like, that's basically what it was.
They did have some early, not really airbrushing, but they did have some early tricks that they employed. But anyway, so this whole idea of, and I'm skipping ahead to page 38, this whole idea of older women. And I feel like throughout these two chapters, we kind of, she mentions the ages of women, and we go from 80 and 90-year-old women kind of down to in their 40s. And I'm like, I'm well past my 40s. So it makes me feel really old. But this idea that these women are supposed to be, they're supposed to dress appropriately for their age, the white bonnet and the black dress or dark colored clothing. That's the widow's weeds is what they called it. You wear these dark dresses. And at the very top of the first paragraph, or the first column, it says, one 1852 book painted a picture in words of the model older woman. Where can we get another grandmama for the warm corner? She's just an object you get.
Wait, there's a really warm corner in this room. We can't have that. We gotta does anyone have a ficus or a grandmama that we can put over there?
Exactly. What in the heck? Yeah, so what in the heck?
Hey, continue with that. The warm corner.
Dear old lady with her well-starched laces, her spotless white satin cap riband, and her shining black silk gown and shawl, her knitting, and her foot stove. It's like you could just buy a set at the grandmama store.
What's funny is I immediately thought of my childhood / middle school, high school best friend. She was always freezing, really freezing. And one time when she was living in her first apartment or something, I forget, I walk in and she has her feet in the oven.
Oh my gosh.
She's got the warming drawer open and her feet are in it, and I just turn the corner what are my feet are cold. I'm I feel like there's better ways to deal with that in this modern world.
I've always been a person of the cold hands and cold feet, and of course my mom always told me cold hands, warm heart. I'm oh yeah, I'll go with that. Yes, but having reached that certain age of old age, I'm suddenly hot all the time. And my mother tells me, well, that's only going to last a little bit. You're going to be cold again. So, but yes, I've worked with people for ages that they all have the little heater under their desk, and you hide it when the fire marshal's around. There's a safety inspection.
Even that's a little better, because a lot of times in an office, you're cold just because you're sedentary. But, yeah, I was feet in the oven. Yes, it is better than her head, Marianne. But it was weird nonetheless. But it's funny, reading this, I was like, should I have gotten her an antique foot stove? Maybe that
a shawl. A shawl and some knitting and an antique foot stove. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So in the next column, it says the very top, it's like, well, religious texts and social pressure define the ideal for aging women to age gracefully, remain productive, and instruct their children and grandchildren in appropriate values. This really struck me because there's a whole section in The Lady of Godey's by Ruth Finley about Sarah Josepha Hale, who does come up in this chapter, where she talked about, and I mean, she's writing, like, Sarah Josepha is writing from the perspective of, you know, like 1830 something through the I think it was like the 1860s or 1870s. She was the editor of Godey's for like 50 years. So it's like it's a long period. And she had her own magazine before that. Anyway, she talked about the Republican mother. And it's this concept of not Republican like we think today of Republican and Democrat, but the Republican of like good for the Republic. And that the mother was responsible. And, you know, this goes back to so many other things you think about, like people that are like, oh, I messed up because of my mother. You know, my mother did this to me, like that kind of thing. But it was really strongly believed that good men came from good mothers, and that a mother's responsibility was to train her children, and really they're talking about the boys, to train them to be good people of the Republic. So that's what this really struck me as, is like, you know, there's this responsibility put on the shoulders of women at this time. Like, well, they probably could stand to have a good male role model too. You know, like never mind their father and grandfather might have some hand in raising them. I mean, we realize that men aren't going to bathe and diaper children, but perhaps they could, you know, be imparting these things onto children as well. But it's really put on the shoulders of women, I think.
Along with most everything else.
Exactly.
In reading this, I was like, oh, well, not much has changed here, especially with the whole aging gracefully concept. I'm just like, never once do we ever hear those words in relation to men. And all of these, I can guarantee there probably like wasn't a whole lot of discussion then about how men have to age gracefully and, you know, cover up, ladies, cover all your stuff. Don't let anybody...
But according to the women in these chapters, like the men didn't have to age gracefully because they all dropped dead. Like, you know, like it's amazing to me that a lot of these, many times you'll hear these stories about, you know, widows, and it's like their husband dropped dead at like 35. They lived to be 90, you know, and like either they never remarried or they had 5 husbands. Like it's crazy. Like the, you know, and of course this is really no different than today. Lots of women are widowed and stay widowed. Lots of women are like, I can't be alone. I got to get remarried. You know, it's really, as much as we look at this as being like, oh, this is back in the olden days, so much of this, like really, these women are no different than us, you know, in a lot of ways. Excuse me. Also on page 38, there on the second column in the middle, it's talking about, this is like, to me, like out of both sides of your mouth, talking about women. So she's talking about around middle age, a woman would lose either face or figure. Well, God help you if you lost both. But this is not without a trade-off. For a woman with a good mind, a good heart, and a good temper can never at any age grow ugly. For an intelligent and pleasant expression is itself beauty, and the best sort of beauty. And so like, oh, well, that sounds nice. But then also you're like, okay, so first of all, you're telling me when I get old, I'm either going to lose my figure or I'm going to be ugly. But I'm expected to have like a good heart and a good mind. So I'm expected to continue being intelligent. I'm expected to be kind. Like, it's like putting so much on you. It's like, well, you can't, you know, you were forced to be beautiful back then. And now that you're not beautiful anymore, now we have these other expectations for you. It's like, dang, can a woman get a break? Right?
I mean, I feel like she still can't get a break. You know, a lot of this like misogyny aspect is still super duper here.
So, we've had a few good comments. So, it's hard to type with cold fingers. Yes. Always left up to the mom, and it's always mom's fault. Yep. Absolutely. So Janet says, we are one of 3 species that have menopause, thought to give the female time to pass on their wisdom and help shape the culture. Well, that's presuming that biologically, culture, you know, it's a great thing that women don't just drop dead when they can't bear children anymore, you know, that we have some purpose. Um, but yeah, I mean, but also the unfairness of the fact that men can literally technically bear children till the day they drop dead, even if that's at 102.
Mm.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I would not want to give birth at 102.
Yeah, I mean, you know, stuff's messed up. But in essence of just keeping things moving, I did find on page 41 here. So
yeah, this was
I
the next
find
big thing.
yeah, I find it very comical that obviously there's, you know, always, I guess, been an issue about how we feel about getting older. I mean, let me rephrase. Within the cultural concept of like misogyny and the male gaze and like how that helps structure how we feel about ourselves and aging and things like that. The fact that we have a number of samplers, I think she said like, there was like 28 samplers that came up in her study where the women picked out age identifying markers so that people wouldn't be able to like
figure out
guess
how old they really are.
They were, yeah. And like I said, there's a number of photos in these chapters that I was actually able to get. So this is okay. You know, when we've mentioned numerous times about like bringing back old names, I feel like we should bring back Lucretia.
Lucretia. Yeah.
It's just, you know, I'm like, it's just one of those names. But anyways, so we've got a sampler silk on linen, cross satin eyelet stitches, border of trailing vines. We've got some verse here. Okay, so she's got Lucretia Buttrick in Concord. April, who knows? Wrought in 18, whatever. The dates are carefully picked out, commonly done by Victorian women so that their ages would not be known.
And this surprised me so much.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I don't know what else I was reading. Yes, Janet, we did ruin the workplace, and we're gonna ruin it again as we get on in these chapters here, because you know it gets worse with the invention of the sewing machine. I know I read something else, and maybe we were reading it because when else do I ever read? That also talked about this in relation to needlework, and it might not have been just samplers. Was it maybe show towels? I feel like there was something else we were looking at somewhere. Maybe it was a museum where they were talking about picking out some identifying markers or something.
Yeah, I don't know, because this was kind of a surprise to me. I had never heard of this before, and I thought that, you know, anecdotally it was a great story about Lucretia Buttrick, but then to discover that it was not just Lucretia, that there are multiple extant examples of women having done this. Lucretia just happened to be the most rascally about it because she changed her name on every census.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't sure just how old. And then when she actually died, what was she, 90?
Yeah, she lived. Yes, she lived to a ripe old age.
I'm sure that like when her obituary was out, you know, she was cursing them kids for actually telling everybody how she really was in the end.
Yeah.
And then I'm also curious, were you 90 trying to tell people you were 56?
She was just, I think that with the worst example, she shaved 11 years off at one point.
Yeah.
I also, I mean, just as a side note, and we don't have to spend really any time on this, but the idea of age heaping, that's not something I'd ever heard of before, that term. But the fact that sometimes people did not know how old they were. They didn't know exactly what year they'd been born in. And I have heard that before. People that are in rural areas that were not educated only had a vague idea of when they were born.
So case in point, my partner's parents fled the Khmer Rouge Holocaust. And they were from, you know, rural areas. And obviously, you flee war zones. You don't have documents with you. So when they got here, and now we have to create birth certificates and things like that, they are not accurate. And I remember the discussion being like, well, how old are they? And him being like, you know what? We're not really sure.
Anywhere
We
from
think,
48 to
yeah,
72.
we think it's this, but it's maybe more like his oldest sister is pretty sure, but it's not entirely sure. And his parents don't seem too upset about it.
Yeah, they just round up or down to the nearest 5 or 0. Like,
Well, I was gonna say I don't know anybody really that's rounding up unless they're like under 20 or 21 or so. That's usually the round up part. Anywhere after that, most people are
rounding
probably
down.
rounding.
Yeah. Marianne says she lies about her weight, but not her age. Honestly, I lie about but the weight on my driver's license is laughable. But it's the only thing. Your height and your weight are the only thing that you could kind of lie about on your driver's license. So, I have never lied about my age, and
You
well,
don't need to because no one they think you're
well,
lying.
I take that back. I did very briefly have a. I hope my mother's not watching. I very briefly had a fake ID when I was 16. It was a terrible fake ID. The guy that bought
What
it,
is she
like,
gonna
he didn't
wait,
buy
what
it.
is she gonna do? Ground you?
Just be horrified and give me crap about it forever. I did
mean,
lie
we're
about
gonna
my
give
age
you
to
crap
them.
about it.
Hey, Carrie, because I look like a teenager. Well,
That's what I mean. When you tell people how old you really are, they're like, no.
But the thing is, many of our friends have never seen me in person, and they only see me through Zoom. And I use Beauty
Where
Face
are
on
you
Zoom.
going with this?
I use Beauty Face on Zoom, so I'm a little blurry.
No, I'm sorry, honey. The filter's really not doing a whole lot, okay? You look like this.
It's blurring out some, like, you can't see my.
Oh my goodness. That your like eyes wrinkle when you laugh. Like I was gonna say, are you gonna try to describe that like your body looks 90 or something? Like
It feels 90. Let's put it that way. So Carrie said she didn't read the book. That is okay. Lots of people here just for the lurkin' and the hijinks. You don't have to read this book.
We have pictures and we discuss and you can just hang. Don't worry, you're not graded. Oh, and Marianne said, I just say it's because of the retin-A.
Yeah.
All right, dear. What do you got next?
Yeah. So moving on from this, the respectability of women. And so page 44, talking about, so at the bottom, we've got that big quote. But basically it's talking about this person who's walking through a week, and she does, I don't think she says specifically, and I didn't look up the footnote, or the end note, but presumably it's a man, but it could be a fellow woman, walking the streets, see this person that they perceive to be young because of like this ostentatious way they're dressed, and then the woman turns around and it's like, oh my god, how dare this woman, does it say in her 50s maybe? No, I guess it doesn't say an age, but she's definitely much older than 15, which was what was expected. And it says, had I seen this lady suitably dressed, in grave colors, without flounces and feathers, with a matronly cap surmounted honestly by a pair of spectacles, I should have felt much more respect for her character. Like, excuse me? And I mean, I think there's something to be said about trying to be much younger than your age. Like, sometimes you can make you look foolish. Like I see women sometimes and I'm like, aw, sis, no. Like, you can be just as elegant and quirky and, however you want to dress, if you dress in ways that are flattering to like the coloration of your skin or the size and shape of your body, things like that, instead of like jumping on fads. But also, if you want to wear bright colors and obnoxious stuff, you should be able to dress any way you want to. This is, at least here in the US, this is a free damn country. At least for the moment. And like, you know what? Stop trying to police what women wear. And just this idea of she's not respectable because she's not dressed for her age. Like, that just makes me so mad.
Well, and the fact that we're just reading, we're basically reading and able to discern now how the policing of what women wear has its wonderful history.
Oh, it sure does. It sure does. I mean, even in a time where, you could see these pictures of these women, like the one, I think the very last picture of a woman in the next chapter, I think she's like on the very, like one of the very last pages. Yeah. Marina Gregg. She looks like she looks like she's like, hurry up and just take the damn picture, okay? But her dress is like, you could see all of this dress up around her.
Mm-hmm.
So, women were not wearing anything scanty. So the only difference here would have been like the flounces and the ruffles and the feathers, and that it's not somber. And so her character is questioned. Like, I won't beat the dead horse any further, but it just made me so mad.
I was gonna say, tell me how you really feel.
And then moving along to Dolly Madison, which I had to note this because Montpelier is literally, my father-in-law is living on land that used to belong to Montpelier. The DuPonts had it for a while. So anyway, it's an interesting historic site. But it talks about, this idea of growing old gracefully was a mixed message. So women are to look at their age, but they also knew that looking young was valued. So it's like, again, going back to the fact that, you're not pretty anymore, but we expect you to be smart and friendly and nice. And it's just like, but younger women are valued because they can have children and they're pretty. So like, it's definitely a lot of mixed messages here.
Robin says, kind of like one of my BFFs who's 72 going out to lunch in Daisy Dukes. Wow. I mean, that takes some guts, girl.
That does. And see, here's the thing. If she looked good in them, more power to you, lady. I love it. But also, should anybody be wearing Daisy Dukes no matter what your age?
Yeah, I'm just like, wow.
If you're in Jello wrestling, anybody, it's fair game. Oh my goodness.
It's also, I mean, obviously, like, Aimee Newell doesn't touch on it in this book because it would just be too much to deal with. But, or maybe she does, and we just haven't gotten to it yet. But I mean, there's also like once you've become a certain age and or you start looking a certain way, you are aging out of the male gaze. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you're still somewhat valuable because you have roles to fulfill that men don't want to do. But don't draw any attention to yourself. So be that like totally covered up. Don't be showy. Don't wear showy color. Don't, take, help in the child rearing and the education and the this. But don't get in men's way.
Yeah. And be happy about it because otherwise you're going to be like a grumpy ass old lady. There's so much like you cannot win here. Yeah. Yep. So I don't know if you had anything. I was going to skip ahead to page 47.
Go ahead.
So it really struck me. So down at the first column, bottom paragraph, it talks about Cleveland. So Lucy Hiller Cleveland. So she's confronting her own aging process. Her father had died in 1814. When she was 34, her sister died the following year, and she was a caretaker for both of them. And because she was the younger woman in the household. So, there's this idea of even if you're not married, you will be caretaking. You will be caring for people. And I mean, we know like in our day and age, like I have experience caring for a child, and that is exhausting, but I did do it in my 20s and 30s. Caring for your aging parents and possibly siblings, and in some cases, even your own children who may have like severe health problems as we age, just it's more encompassing. And, it's just, again, like men aren't doing this work. This always is women's work.
Well, and I was just reading an article yesterday, which I already knew about, but you just read the train wrecks. That statistically, if a wife becomes sick, like 30% of husbands leave. But when husbands become sick, only like 1 to 2% of wives leave.
Yeah, it's that idea of like, you have a sense of obligation. It's easier for men to let go of their sense of obligation, I suppose. It goes on, like, I won't spend much more time on it, but it goes on to talk about this idea of pleasure, being out of place. What have I to do with anything but duty? Her words give a sense of intergenerational tension as she balanced her own wants with the duty and responsibility of caring for her family. Yeah, so, like, yeah, I get it. It's like, what she speaks to, I think, is like the reality of many, many, many women. And then, of course, I we have to, of course, acknowledge Lucy Hiller's little vignettes.
Yes.
Because although they are about dying and tending
They're really
to
cool.
like wound care, they are still really, really interesting and like so fascinating to me that she chose these specific little images to recreate, and just the fact that she was making these little, these
Well,
little
you just
images.
also like little things. So that first one I just showed, that's called The Sick Chamber, and by Lucy Hiller Cleveland, 1780 to 1866. She made this in 1831 in Salem, Massachusetts. I did try to find it at Peabody Essex Museum. They weren't forthcoming. Lucy Hiller Cleveland made at least 7 how did you say that, vignettes?
Vignette. Mm-hmm.
Yep. She reproduced many small details, for example, down to the proper bed furnishings, and formed her figures in such a way as to give each one some personality. Each vignette tells a story and may have been drawn from her own life experiences. And then there's another one here called
The Foot Bath.
The Foot Bath. And this one was 1845 to 55. And this one says, Lucy Hiller Cleveland nursed her father when he was sick. Her personal experience may have informed the details. And these are incredible. The fact that they're not available online kind of annoys me.
Yeah, and I mean, these have such a I don't know, I'm going to say like an importance, because this is showing like real life. And even though these are people that obviously have like, well, I think the sick bed one is actually supposed to be Washington, isn't it? Supposed to be Washington, George Washington's sick bed, the sick chamber. But the one about the foot bath, I mean, this is an example obviously of clothing. This is an example of like what, family members would be responsible for as far as caring for each other, even though in these two examples, they have servants. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And also the 2 little dogs in the footpath. Like, there's always a dog underfoot when you have a dog, right?
Yeah, that's true. And going forward here, I actually have a photo for figure 2.11. Let me find it here.
Oh, 211, yes.
Yeah, I have so much stuff up on my screen.
While you're looking for that, I just had to appreciate the sampler that is in the facing page of this. So this image is on page 53. But the facing image is of a sampler. I don't think does it have the person's age? Yeah, she's 36. We all have our hobbies. I loved that. And, I mean, that's again, like, even if you are caring for children and you're a young person, you probably do still have something that just like is a little bit just for you, even if you only have like a minuscule amount of time for it until you grow older.
Now, sadly, this picture is not fantastic. This is the quilt index, and I'm wondering if this was just from a documentation photo, which they're not great. Which that reminds me, just FYI, I was away this past weekend in Plymouth, Massachusetts, doing Massachusetts quilt documentation for the Plymouth Antiquarian Society. 2 days.
Very exciting.
We did like 36 quilts or something. It was madness. It was fun. Anywho, so this is Counterpane by Mary Tayloe Lloyd Key, and she lived 1786 to 1859. This quilt is circa 1840, Georgetown, Maryland. And this lives at the Dar. And Mary Lloyd Key created this counterpane using over 3,600 triangles, along with the challenging mariner's compass block. The outermost border fabric shows a Greek key motif, which may have been a purposeful choice on the quilt maker's part to symbolize her family.
And I thought that was interesting because there's 2 theories on the Greek key, and one being the last name Key, which is very important in Maryland because she's Francis Scott Key's wife, but also that her family, she had generational wealth coming into that marriage. So the Greek key was kind of an important like architectural and decorative motif in in a wealthy person's life. She would have been exposed to it in decor for a very long time. So Um, I suspect it's probably more of that, of like the Greek key makes this look rich, and that it was probably just a bonus that it's called a Greek key. That's my opinion on this. Just
Mm-hmm.
what I know about the key family.
And then do you have anything else for this chapter?
Really, just kind of like right here at the end of the last couple of paragraphs. How in a letter to her son in 1823, Hannah Robbins Gilman says, "When absent from your children, we feel like useless beings." I mean, if that isn't an empty nest kind of sentiment, I don't know what is.
Mm-hmm.
And then this idea of this very last paragraph: needlework was a constant for antebellum women from girlhood to old age. And just really like what it means, it's about taking care of all of these people in your role.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
all right, chapter 3.
Moving on. I mean, we're covering a lot. We're covering a lot tonight.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in chapter 3 here, the technological reshaping of antebellum needlework. Um, I found this very interesting. So in on the very first page here on 57, we we have in 1843, 50-year-old Lucretia, another Lucretia, Coffin Mott, 1793 to 1880, wrote to her sister, 37-year-old Martha Coffin Pelham Wright, 1806 to 1875, about her frustration with their 72-year-old mother, Anna Folger Coffin, 1771 to 1844. It is so like our mother not to want any newfangled way of doing that which she is in haste to accomplish. Not that she is opposed to improvements and new inventions, not she, when they do not interfere with her desire to make quick work and finish as she goes. When we were quilting, I wanted a border. Not having another pair of hands, as well as a little ingenuity, I was obliged reluctantly to yield to her importunity not to have it forever about. That puts off, never accomplish, etc. Mott's comments suggest the ambivalence that cut across antebellum generations when they were confronted with newfangled products, techniques, and styles related to their textiles.
My guess is that the newfangled in this comment about Anna Folger Coffin, and I'm guessing Lucretia Coffin Mott is not the Lucretia Mott of suffrage, right?
I
don't know. In any event, this newfangled thing, I'm assuming is the newfangled way of doing things, not necessarily newfangled products. Because I was like, is she complaining about not having to weave and print her own cloth? Like, what? It's not like they're just introducing rotary cutters here. So it kind of made me laugh to think like, oh my gosh, there's like beautiful fabric. I mean, at this time period, beautiful fabric. And that's available to them as these new processes. And her, I'm thinking this newfangled fabric that they didn't have to weave themselves. Like, oh my God.
And this is her from the Nantucket Historical Association, which is so funny because I was just there. I don't recall noticing anything about her though, but I have to say one thing. This like bonnet thing, we see like all of them wearing some type of I'm itchy. It looks itchy. Like having like this seam like right here and like her ears are covered. Like great when like it's mosquito season, but I'm just like I feel itchy.
Yeah, these bonnets, I mean this kind of bonnet reminds me of like the bonnets that Amish and Mennonite women still wear, sometimes. And yeah, it's like it's a starched but very,
except those don't cover all the way to
no,
the face.
they don't. They are much more back on the head, but still,
I could get on board with that way more than this kind.
Yeah, it does. It just feels like it's an impediment on your head, and it's like it's sheer. It's not like it's really hiding your hair. I understand, from a cultural or perhaps even religious standpoint of like covering your hair, but like this isn't even covering your hair because you can see through it.
Now, I did want to show you something. So when I was searching for her, this is the search results. she was very important on Nantucket. There is so much stuff um for her. Like this is a plate with her portrait. Um
And it's
this
it's no more it's no more attractive than her actual portrait.
no. Well, her portrait looks like you said, take the damn photo. Okay. Then here's her mom.
Anna Folger.
And,
Okay.
yeah, I'm assuming dead dad. Which it's funny, mom's wearing a very similar kind of bonnet, but she's clearly much younger. And then
Yeah, so this is Lucretia Mott, the abolitionist and suffragist.
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So then here's the doorbell from mom's shop on Fair Street. Like there's a lot that survives here. Look, here's a wood bas-relief carving of Lucretia Mott.
Now that looks
With
better than her portrait.
But like of course the same stinking bonnet.
Poor woman.
Yeah. But also I just wanted to just point out there's some really cool stuff here. Like we have some traveling pockets. I didn't read into that as to how that's tied with her. But look, here's a quilt made by Lucretia Mott.
Silk.
I know it's not technically in our book here because I did look ahead to make sure that like it wasn't part of this chapter or anything. But look at that thing, silk.
That's got a long drop too.
Mm-hmm.
Got those little ties for going around the bedposts.
Yeah, but I was just like, hey, we can deviate just a smidge. We can look at some extra things here.
Yeah, sure.
Carrie just said Lucretia Mott is my ancestor.
What?
We're gonna need to hear more about that, Carrie.
Yeah. Oh, Marianne does have a good point about keeping your hair cleaner with a bonnet or covering up your greasy hair should you not clean it.
Yeah. But yeah, there was like my search yielded like here's another print of Lucretia Mott Lane. Here's another
Lucretia Mott's butter knife.
Here's a bronze bust. There, and she looks even worse in this than.
Oh, hey Janet. Yes, she is a Quaker. So, yeah, I mean the expectation is at this time period is they're all going to wear these horrid white bonnets, but I guess that style might be more Quaker. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So there's some stuff there. Carry on.
So, following Lucretia, on page 58, a couple things really stuck me. So in the first paragraph is talking about, a closer look at the quilts and samplers of mature women, as well as the words written about them, or written by and about them, suggests that they were not always ambivalent about the changes, but rather about the marginalization of their work. So I was like, And then on the next column in the middle there, it says, while some welcomed mechanization and the new types of work it offered, along with opportunities for advancement, others viewed it as a threat that would lead to fewer jobs, monotonous labor, and oppressive discipline. So yeah, there's something to be said there of like, okay, we're already marginalized. We have, our beautiful handwork is this thing that sets us apart. And now that's taken away from us. And we're just going to be like put in this drudgery, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of that going on right now. AI taking over. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that people have these sort of, maybe it's not the same sentiment right now, but people have this fear when you're going through like an industrial kind of change.
That's what I was going to say. Like, isn't that just kind of like, we had the same issue with the internet, right? Like, I feel like every however many years we keep having this, I don't know, new age of, advancement, I guess you could say, where, people get nervous, some are excited, some are really terrified. Some people are just like, I don't know. I don't know, like.
Yeah, for sure.
But obviously, I kind of wish the Industrial Revolution was the problems we were dealing with right now, and not necessarily some of this other some of this other stuff here. And
so did you have you had more stuff to say about this?
I was just gonna read some comments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Carrie just said she's related to Lucretia Mott on her dad's side. Thomas Coffin Jr. was Lucretia Mott's dad, and that's my ancestral connection. Wow, it's very interesting. Yeah. And then Janet said we have a Lucretia Mott Ball who is one of the historical society founders. Okay, we could never figure out if she was named after the abolitionists.
It's gotta be.
Yes, Carrie. Yes, Carrie, you are fancy.
Lucretia Mott is such a unique name. I have a hard time believing she wasn't, like, this founder is not named after her.
Well, and you know what? It's just all the more reason that I'm like, man, maybe we should bring that name back.
Well, you can name your next pet or your first child Lucretia.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen for me, but we need to like tell all of our friends. If you have nothing else in the moment, I was going to show the quilt on page 60.
Okay, go ahead and show that, because what I want to talk about it is directly about this quilt. And this is a little bit of I don't want to say this is sour grapes, but I want to make a point that I think Aimee Newell has definitely cornered the market on this bit of knowledge. So, and I can always bring Dr. Dunton into any conversation.
Of course.
So, beautiful quilt. Where is this? Is that LACMA?
This is, yeah.
So the facing page to this, let's see. So page 61, last paragraph, and then we're going to go on into the following page. It says Snyder's quilt also employed an indelible ink to record the family information she added. New indelible inks, which their makers claimed would not rot fabric, were developed in the mid 1830s. Although India ink, imported from China, had been used throughout the world for centuries and worked well for writing on fabric. So what we often will hear is that writing on fabric is no way to date a quilt. Because you'll often hear, well, you know, these indelible fabric-friendly inks were not available till 1830s, and so, but people are like, but India ink was available forever, so you can't use that as a dating mechanism, right? Yeah. But then we get on here into the next page, where the next text is 63. So there's the homemade inks, which we know, the like the walnut ink that will rot fabric because of the tannins. But it goes on to say during the 1830s and 40s, several patents were filed in France and the U.S. for indelible writing ink, which used silver nitrate instead of iron, which is, you know, why it doesn't eat the fabric. Payson's indelible ink, credited with being the oldest manufactured ink suitable for fabric, came into the market around 1834. Dr. Dunton, that very ad is in his the one with the says Payson's, and then it's got the, I guess it's a pen.
This one?
Yeah. That very ad is in his collection at the BMA, along with some other Payson's materials. He contacted the people at Payson. I believe they were, let me see, whatever you've got under there. I'm not sure where this is coming from, but I want to say they were in New Jersey, who he was writing to. The point I'm trying to make here is, yes, India ink was around forever. First of all, though, were people actually using India ink in their daily, you know, to write letters, to write things down? You know, some people were not writing long letters. They may have had like a homemade ink that they used just to jot things down. They may have used a pencil for other. Not all people were writers. But the other thing is, it was the marketing. This was marketed to people. Write on fabric without it rotting. And
yeah, that's why I found these ads.
Yes. And so this is where I'm like, yes, absolutely. They could have written on fabric, you know, I mean, people in China were writing on fabric probably because India ink has been around forever. But it was not marketed to them. And so when something is marketed to you, then you like quickly adopt it, and especially if it was marketed from the perspective of you can write on fabric. Now, so with that said, I'm not going to say that every single quilt that has inking on it should just be immediately assumed. But I think more likely than not, it is a decent way to date quilts, because people were probably, it's not the fad, and it's in here. It's literally in here as a fad. And is it on the same page? Let's see. I think it might be way further down in this chapter where it talks about writing on quilts being a fad, like being considered a fad. And it was. It's just a fad that lasted a really long time and people really liked, right? Because it
Mary Ann just asked, just black India ink?
I don't know a lot about inks, but yeah, I think black India ink, yeah. And I don't know how India ink is made. I know nothing about it. I've owned some when I was in art school. It stains the bejesus out of everything, so I'm glad that I could use a pencil or a ballpoint pen or a gel pen and not have to write with this stuff. But yeah, and as far as I know, black was the ink color that generally people used. When the inks that fade to brown are more likely, or the inks that are brown are more likely some kind of other formulation, like a walnut ink or.
One reason I wanted these is I wanted to see if it had, no, bummer. I was hoping it had the close-ups of the inking in here, because like you can see some of the close-up on page 61.
Yeah,
but
it's
even
not
that,
super.
Barely,
Yeah, you can tell that there's a lot written in there.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like if I do enlarge. Oh wait. Oh yay. Oh good. This one has a good zoom. Yeah, so you can see all the ink in there, because this quilt is Emily Vandergrift Snyder. This is circa 1850, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Emily Snyder's colorful quilt serves as a memorial to her family, tracking family information and meaningful verses. And she used indelible ink to record this information about her recently deceased husband and children. There's things like inscribed verses and such. Hey, where did it go? Why did it?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention when it made itself small. I don't know.
Stay. I was gonna say I literally touched nothing. Just stay.
Yeah.
Look at all that paisley like sashing too.
This is a really pretty quilt, and I love that it's the German, the Pennsylvania Dutch, that Fraktur influence. Those tulips look exactly like something off of a Fraktur writing.
All right, so next here.
So next time we'll talk about, like, I've gotten this ink thing off my chest. We'll talk about rayon next. Rayon will be my next rant at another time.
Okay, so I'm just getting my bearings and my notes here. Okay, can we move on to some sewing machines?
Yes.
All right, so
so first of all, $100. Sewing machines were $100. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
that is a lot of money at that time.
When you consider the average family household's annual income was $500. Yeah. So let me see here on page 64. Where am I? I think I'm in the second column here. The actual full paragraph. As these women knew only too well, sewing a man's shirt by hand took over 14 hours, and a woman's dress could take almost 7 hours. When a sewing machine was used instead of needle in hand, these common garments took only an hour or two. Proponents of women's rights saw the sewing machine as the savior of thousands of women. Reformer Amelia Bloomer, 1818 to 1894, believed that with the time saved by the sewing machine, female merchants, bookkeepers, shoemakers, cabinet makers, jewelers, booksellers, typesetters, editors, publishers, farmers, and physicians would become commonplace. As she explained, woman has long enough stitched her health and life away, and it is merciful to her that sewing machines have been invented to relieve her of her toilsome, ill-paid labor and to send her forth into more active and more lucrative pursuits where both body and mind may have the exercise necessary to health and happiness. 43-year-old Harriet Kidder, 1816 to 1950 of Illinois, seconded Bloomer's appraisal when she wrote in 1859 that her sewing machine was a very valuable household article. It renders sewing a pleasure rather than a toil.
And I also, and so love Amelia Bloomer. She would be Amelia Bloomer of bifurcated pants Bloomer. And she, oh, God bless her. But what I really took out of there was this part about, more lucrative pursuits. And then she gives this like laundry list of all these things women can be. Yes. And we did become those things, but we're still not paid as much as men for them sometimes. So it's like, you wonder if you had the opportunity to talk to these women from where we are now, like, I think they would be amazed. They would just be like, oh my gosh, it came true. But also, we're still not quite there yet, Yeah. Yeah, like I just, there's so much of these 2 chapters were just like hitting me right here.
And then on 67 here, we have...
Yeah, this is a very cool quilt.
Yeah, this quilt here, which again, the picture's not fantastic. I think it's from a documentation project again. This is Quilt by Mary DeLoach Sneed. She's 1807 to 1905. This quilt was 1850 to 60 in Waco, Texas. According to family history, Mary DeLoach Sneed's quilt, which includes machine stitching, was made using one of the first sewing machines to come to Texas. And it said that she made each of these basket blocks. She did the applique on the blocks and then put all of it together by machine. And then one thing that's a little fuzzy to me is it said something like the basket work was cheater print, and then she added more stitching to make it more, but it's hard. I just can't tell. I think
what she did, it seems like what she did was she quilted the baskets in like a basket weave fashion to make it pop out, I think is what I took from that.
Yeah, and it said like there's like some stuff work and things like that. It's just, again, it's hard to tell from this photo. But I was at least happy to have a photo.
Yeah. And this just the quilt itself, I think, is really cool, interesting quilt. Because you have the denseness of these, like they almost like the basket block. It has, I don't want to call it like it's, similar to a Baltimore Album quilt, but that high style of Baltimore Album quilts that are just so much sewing, so much stuff. That's what these remind me of. I mean, so much effort. And they're not all exactly the same. There are some tiny little differences in each one that I think is interesting to look at. But this is a really cool quilt.
I think one thing, the talk about this is just a little further ahead, but with people that were, making arguments about like, well, the sewing machine's just going to make, it's going to bring women to the workforce and just ruin everything. And what are we going to do? What are they going to do with themselves if they're not doing all that laborious, stuff for nothing? And one major point to point out is that it freed up time for more artistic endeavors.
Yeah. And
even with this, if she's putting it together by machine and maybe doing some machine quilting, she still did a massive amount of ornate handwork with the applique and stuffing. And I guess I wish we had a really good close-up of one of the blocks, but so it's like she maybe had more time to be more artistic with this quilt because she could do the big long seams
without having to do it by hand.
Well, I also just want to be like, you know what, men, with all your opinions, stay in your lane. Don't you get in my needlework lane. Leave my needlework lane alone. No.
So it doesn't really say like how anybody felt about this quilt or about this sewing machine being the first one in Texas. But if you've read Florence Peto, Historical Quilts, she tells the story about the first sewing machine on Long Island. And the woman that made this quilt called the Lobster. And it's a pretty well-known pattern, kind of out of that area. And people were offended by the quilt. They were like, look at this hot garbage this lady did. Like, how dare she not only make a quilt, like it was like her first quilt ever, but she sewed it entirely on the machine. Like, she quilted on the machine, she appliqued, like, I'm sure it was a hot mess, but like, she's like the first one to do that. Like, good for her. One thing I wanted to point out, it's a little bit before this, the fruit basket quilt. On page 66, it's in the first column where it talks about many female family members seem to have found consensus in their interest in the sewing machine. While all the aging women quoted here who wrote about sewing machines expressed their positive enthusiasm, most of them enlisted the help of younger relatives in learning about the options, purchasing, and using. So I thought that was interesting. Like, this is another thing today that, you know, I notice some of our older colleagues and older family members that, you know, my mom has a long arm, and like, beyond basic stuff, it scares her. And I was like, you spend a lot of money on that long arm, you're going to learn how to properly use it. So, you know, it's one of those things that it's, again, like, these people are not that much different than us in just how they approach the world and the needs they have.
Can we move on to agricultural fairs?
Yes.
So I found it interesting. I didn't know this, but on page 69, the first agricultural fair took place in Pittsfield, Mass.
Yeah.
Which is Western Massachusetts, in 1810. And soon there were hundreds of other fairs, and women began displaying needlework, which they still do today. I see in many Facebook groups, like, I entered this into the fair. And I hadn't really considered the fact that, you know, being able to do so kind of could give them a sense of social standing and social power within these smaller rural communities.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's that sense of like, okay, you're standing out to your family because you're still doing and contributing and making things, but, you know, not having any other means in your community to look as if you still have, you know, and it actually says here as a means for older women to resist marginalization. So yeah, it's that ability to still be, you know, recognized, and that you still have like this skill and usefulness.
And then on 70 here, there's an excerpt from the Ohio State Board of Agriculture that presented a positive view of these changes for women. And it says, what a vast amount of female labor has been superseded by the spinning machine, power loom, knitting, and sewing machine. So far as the employment of females in the farmer's house is concerned, the wives and daughters of the future farmers of Ohio cannot realize the condition of those who lived during the first half century of its existence in this state. We hope the day is not far distant when the farmer's wife shall be relieved from all drudgery and can devote her time more to the mental and physical education of her offspring and the cultivation of science, arts, and literature.
And yet, just less than 20 years before that, we had somebody saying, we would restore the good old day of housewifery when women knew the use of the distaff, and instead of waltzes, cantatas, and duets, thrummed out by a boarding school miss upon a discordant piano, the houses of our farmers rang with the cheerful sound of the wheel and the loom. Society was much like it is today. So one thing I thought was interesting about the prize recognition, and this is like purely like my curiosity about just things. Have you ever seen, I mean, you were in antique stores far, far, far more than I ever am. Have you ever seen any of these like prizes that, you know, like a silver pitcher, like a silver medal? Like, have you seen this kind of stuff out there?
I'm sure it's out there. It's just not something I've ever noticed.
Yeah, I have never seen I have seen like you know, prizes and medals for things like sports type stuff, like horse riding and tennis. I don't know, things like that. I have never, and I've read lots and lots about these fairs. In Maryland, there was actually it was like this big arts thing that they did, and they literally published like books listing all of the prizes people won, and people, like, literally hundreds and thousands of people would enter stuff. And they would list, like, you know, got a silver teaspoon, got, you know, all of these different things. And I have literally never seen any of these things. And I'm just wondering, in some cases, they probably were not engraved and just ended up in the you know, the silver services.
Mm-hmm.
Probably melted down if they aren't appearing, but like just something that is literally engraved with like she got this because she made a quilt and it won a prize. Like I have never once seen anything like that.
Well,
But they're talked
so you know
about. So
right. Well, so you know what's interesting is like, so we're talking about how, being able to engage in these fairs and show your needlework and stuff stops the marginalizing of women's work. Not completely, because who's reporting on these fairs?
yeah, these dumb men that are
Yeah. So on the bottom of page 71 here, at the beginning of the last paragraph in the first column, previous studies of agricultural fairs have also noted that entries by the very old and the very young were often singled out as particularly noteworthy.
mm-hmm.
Brackman, our friend Barbara Brackman, suggests that this may be due to the inarticulateness of the male reporters as assigned to cover the ladies' exhibits. For example, the domestic hall at an 1858 Ohio fair was described this way. There were many quilts there. The handiwork of the fair ladies of Ohio. Some were really fine, others pretty, and some gaudy. There were 100 different articles of use or ornament that doubtless skipped our eye, among the rest. For we have only an indistinct recollection of a mixed mass of dry goods. Someone of our lady readers will doubtless supply us with a better description of the remarkables in this hall.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of crap in there. Our lady readers probably know what it is. Moving right along. Another book. This was gifted to me by our dear friend Jen, but it was written or compiled, because it's not actually, it's compiled of newspaper articles from a colleague, Sue Reich. And there are tons and tons of newspaper articles saying exactly this. Very, very old woman made this quilt. Isn't it amazing? Very, very young child made this other thing. Isn't that amazing? So yes, the very old and the very young were, prized for their abilities for sure.
Well, and then we have here this quilt, again from Nantucket. And this is Nantucket Agricultural Society quilt, 1856, Nantucket Historical Association. This quilt, made for the first Nantucket Agricultural Society fair, seems to have been made under the direction of Lucy Macy Mitchell and Hannah Gardner Fosdick. Each diamond was signed, and the quilt may have been auctioned off to raise money for the society. And then it mentions somewhere over here, I think on page 73, that there's really like almost no record. Just kind of like this quilt was there.
Yep.
Like, they just kind of think it might have been auctioned off. They don't really know. Like, it was here, and it went somewhere else.
Yeah, and this is where I think this is where it's actually on page 75, but I think this is where talking about this very quilt is about that, how it was a fad. It was considered a fad. The writing on quilts. But thank goodness on our end of this, thank goodness it was a fad, because these women's names would not be known to the present day. In a lot of cases, if we didn't have these quilts with their names on them. So
well, and like, look at this.
I know the drawing of the eagle. So that drawing is on page 74. How amazing that these women not only were using these inks, like right on fabric, and
look at this,
no chance to do over. Right.
It's like a plowing scene.
Yep. That's mentioned by, isn't that mentioned by the girl who wrote the little song. That little song is how we know who was probably in charge of this quilt.
Yeah, that was the nice thing about this group of photos here, is it gives us some more than interesting. It's like this cornucopia.
Yeah, so much writing on these.
Another cornucopia. And this is not a quilt that I saw when I was in Nantucket, just FYI.
I really like this quilt. And it's interesting on page 74 where she talks about the quilt is pieced in a simple square block, known alternatively as friendship album quilt, broken sash, and Dutch tile. Today it's known as an economy block.
So it's funny. I in Plymouth this past weekend, I was helping an appraiser document a quilt with this block. And I immediately was like, well, it's a square and a square. And she was like, it's diamond in a square. I'm like, it's a square and a square. And we start looking it up in Brackman because, there is a spot to give like an actual. She won. Brackman has it as diamond in a square, but I'm like, this is a square in a square block.
I think that's diamond in a square just because of the orientation. Because it's
right.
Yeah.
But I was still like, it is a square in a square. Modern instructions would call it that. But
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, that's the example of, I mean, I know Brackman put together the encyclopedia and we all rely on it quite a bit, but it also goes back to the fact that these names are totally made up and regional and timeline focused. If you showed any modern, like, contemporary quilter, I would say younger contemporary quilters would look at that and go, oh, that's an economy block quilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Robin agrees. Square and a square on point. I didn't know. It didn't mention that it was like signed on the back here, Charles something Coffin. And then it also has an applied tool tape binding. That's why I'm always trying to look up when we get stuff, because you get
more stuff. Yeah.
Get other photos. Yeah. Get other info. That's why I'm so frustrated when I can't.
Yeah, I also love the and again, still going on this idea at the bottom of page 75, she's talking about given their rapid rise in popularity, their reliance on a set formula, and their limited duration, signature quilts fit the definition of a fad. But they also serve serious purposes. And kind of going down further, it says the ladies of the society chose a quilt that symbolically gathered their community to get together. Signature quilts were a tangible reminder of family and friends and the social support they provided. Again, this just goes back to the fact that so many of these people, whether, women or children that may not have lived much longer, or, men that were maybe not merchants and ship captains, they were just everyday guys, they would have had their name in the census and maybe nothing else. So these, fad or not, these are so important to us today. And I think that, again, it gets me right here when I think about the fact that, some of these women, this is the only place that their name appears that, like, as proof they were here.
Other than somebody's daughter and somebody's wife.
Yeah. Now, page 76, there's another thing that I kind of question. So she's talking about the quilt by Euphemia Wilson Ryder. Do you want to bring Euphemia back?
I couldn't find this one, sadly. This is
another amazing quilt, and I think from what I can tell in the detail, the writing is in the little center circle. So Aimee says, a woman of writer's experience and skill could certainly have pieced these blocks in a matter of weeks and then spent several days quilting, either alone or with friends. I really question. You would need to be stitching, and I mean, these are kind of complex, like more than kinda. I really question, even with somebody who is a great stitcher, could make all of those blocks in a few weeks. Like, she would have had to have been stitching like pretty consistently, like nonstop, because that's just, we're not just talking about a circle with some sunshine points on it. You've also got the little teeny, like, intermediate points that go in between, like, the really bold points. So this is not a simple quilt to make. And I realized that in the whole scheme of things, it's really just the fact that it took her 6 years to make it. That's kind of like, oh, why? Because it's not an easy quilt to make, right? Like,
and she still has to live life.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Do all that drudgery.
Yeah. So I kind of question, and that's the only thing I've seen yet that I'm kind of like, what? I sort of question Aimee's opinion about that. So I just had to mention it.
If I don't know what else of note you have to mention here, I have one more figure to show, which is the 3.12, which is on page 80. It's the last one I was able to find.
Yeah, and this is a Submit Gaze quilt. What an interesting name, Submit.
I think it's, yeah. Never mind.
Her name is Submit.
Yeah.
While you're pulling that up, just a couple of things that I pulled her. So on page 78, the romantic movement. I don't know that that's necessarily something. I mean, I surely have heard of it before, like romanticism, but I always kind of thought that that was like a backward-looking term. What is the romantic movement? I mean, are we talking about like in literature, or I'm not really sure. Recent quilt, so this is on page 78. Recent quilt scholarship suggests that signature quilts are closely tied to the Romantic movement, which reached its peak during the Antebellum era. So, yeah, I'm just wondering if you guys have any idea, or if you had any idea, because I could have Googled it, I know, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure I knew at one point. It's just not coming to me now, because the first thing I think of are like today's Instagram influencers that are like, romanticize your nighttime routine. Like, and my brain kind of can't separate from that at the moment. I'm also really bummed that I can't make this quilt bigger.
yeah, that is a bummer. The picture in the book is far, far better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful quilt.
It's also rude because it says click on images to view a larger version. Yeah, it's not larger. The background's just black.
It's probably the original size of that image is poor.
This is So yeah, quilt by Submit Gay, 1842 Connecticut. It's in the Wadsworth in Hartford, and this is Submit Gay entered her impressive quilt in the local agricultural fair in 1842 and won a prize for the best bed quilt. Her skilled work and the pleasing visual impact of her quilt may have inspired younger generations of women to follow in her footsteps. And then also, this isn't something I have a photo of, but like when we were talking about, ladies and their portraits and the way, can we just appreciate Marina Jones Gregg here?
Yeah, so this is the one I was mentioning.
I'm posting how I want.
Exactly. And she's the one that I mentioned earlier that, like, just look at the voluminous fabric around her in her dress. Like, how could, and we can guess her dress is probably black, like a black gingham or gray. She's got the white head thing. It looks like there's a giant bow. Like, oh gosh. But like, just change the colors of those things and all of a sudden she's got questionable character. That's kind of where I was going and talking about this picture. But I also like the attitude on her face. She's like, take the damn picture. All right.
Yeah. It also says that she appears to be holding a knitting project in her photographic portrait. Just as in antebellum painted portraits, the knitting may have been intended to symbolize her industry as well as her femininity.
And she's just like, take the damn picture already. Fine, I'll pose with my knitting. Yeah. Or I'll pose with Anna's knitting. This isn't even my damn knitting.
And then there is something that's damn hers. And on the next page is a hexagon quilt that she made that I also couldn't.
So gorgeous. Oh, yes. I just loved her quilt. And it's interesting. So she's originally from Charleston. But she lived for a while close to where my grandmother is from. So I always have a little pitter pat in my heart for people that live in that part of South Carolina. But yeah, like, just what an amazing quilt. And then that fringe around it. You're like, she was a classy lady.
Yeah.
Also, did you notice 14 stitches to the inch?
And I thought in my documentation this past weekend, I think we had one with 12. And I was like, that is something to go blind to. Like, woo, 14.
So this quilt is, I'm sure it said something here that it's silk. It's all silk. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, it looks silk.
Silk is so much easier to quilt through. You can really like get tiny stitches in silk. So, but still, 14 stitches an inch is amazing. But yeah, it says she won a silver pitcher inscribed Southern Central Agricultural Society to Mrs. M. Gregg for best quilt. So it existed. Like, it was a thing that existed out there, and I guess it's probably still does in this case, you know, that we know about it. But yeah.
This was a lively discussion today.
This book is like giving me a lot to think about, and just it's delightful in that I feel like, you know, from my frame of reference here in 2025, you know, it's like when you read about women and you read their words or the things that were written about them, they, even though they're 200 years ago or more, 250 years ago, they still seem so much closer to us now than if we just read about them in a history book, you know? I wish these were the kinds of things that we got to read, you know, in actual high school history. I would have cared more. Reading about all the battles and memorizing the dates. This is why I barely passed history at any point. But yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing to make it relatable, in a sense. They put the most boring stuff in there.
Yeah.
Nothing to necessarily pull at your heartstrings and make people feel real.
Yeah, so some of the other things that we didn't get to, that one other thing I wanted to read, I love this. This is back on page 79, where they're talking about this woman, Ruth Watson of Spencer, Massachusetts, who entered 4 woolen work bags in the Worcester Agricultural Society Fair. And I think they said she 90? Yeah. So she demonstrated, or these bags demonstrated to all, that even 90 years have not been sufficient to blot out that skill and dexterity which are required in producing works of ingenuity and taste. May she live 1,000 years. There's just something patronizing about that. So I guess we could end this with Betsy Maria Ayer, who used the word property in her sampler. That picture, she used the word property, and I say more power to you, sis. We need to claim what is ours.
I feel it's awfully sarcastic.
Yeah, but it's like we need to claim what's ours, you know, like. So, but yeah, I feel such a sense of kinship with these women. You know, I mean, all of them, from the young mothers all the way up to these amazing 90-year-old women. Very old ladies who could still sew.
They still have useful employment.
Yeah,
they're not just rotting in the corner with a ficus.
Well, but we can rent them if we need a grandmama in the corner. I would be totally fine if somebody wants to rent me out at some point. I'll sit in the corner. I'll sew. Give me something good to, you know, snack on.
I was going to say, you would be requiring snacks.
Of course. A chicken sandwich once a week. Like...
Speaking of chicken sandwiches, again, if you were late to join us, we've got Stitch and Glitch this Saturday at 2 p.m. Who knows how long we go? I mean, I think we commit to like at least an hour. Sometimes we end up there for 3. So, and there's likely to be some quilts. There could be chicken sandwiches. One of these days we need to show up with a chicken sandwich.
Maybe I will do it. Maybe I will do it this week. I will eat a chicken sandwich on air while Jill shows quilts.
I actually find that not... I don't know. You eating on air?
I don't like to do it. I don't like to do it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like, And then last reminder, we do not have a live stream next Tuesday. Stephanie has to go out of town. Family, whatever. So we'll have a pre-recorded video at 2 p.m. on Tuesday for your enjoyment. And then, so our next book discussion is December 2nd. So you've got extra time to catch up if you're behind. And this is one of those things where I do recommend that if you're behind, that you do actually catch up and read. It's very interesting. There's so much we can't talk about. She talks about so many different women, so many examples, and we just can't discuss all of it. So our next assigned reading is chapters 4 and 5, pages 85 to 137. Whew. Okay. Now I'm hungry. Thanks.
Me too. I did have dinner earlier, but it was an early dinner. So
yeah, me too. And mine was the salad.
Now I need a second dinner.
Yeah. Well, have a good night, everybody.
Bye, guys. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you on Saturday.